edition rock and roll.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Chase Carter Concept Podcast for Friday. I don't even know what May 7th. Yesterday was nephew's birthday, little baby's birthday. I called him, didn't answer, which I thought was rude. If you ever watch this in the future, just know you're a rude little piece of shit. Left you a message, happy birthday message. I sang happy birthday to you. Didn't get a response back, but it's okay. He's like 5 or 6, not too sure how old he is. He's little, about this. He's 5, 6, 7 weeks old. He couldn't be any more than 5 or 6, 7 weeks old. Big kid. What have I been doing? Oh, I've been watching the Vikings. Now I know I'm 4 or 5 years late. I would apologize, but I'm not going to. Assassin's Creed Valhalla came out November? Yeah, around November. And so I thought, hey, this has something to do with Ragnar Lothbrok, which is not a real character in history. He's a combination of multiple people, I guess. And then that's a whole historical issue or conversation to have. And then, I'm gonna leave that one in there. And then see, what was it? There was, so I wanted to get an overview, an idea of the world I'm going to be playing in, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I was excited for it. I wanted to do some extra research, I guess, or some, not research, but extra, when you get in, when you get involved in something and you want a deep dive. I wanted to do a deep dive into it. And people have been saying that the Viking show is good, so I've been wanting to watch it. So started watching that, beat Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And then I'm in I just finished season 4 last night on a season 5. And there was one thing that got me into another conversation about religion. There is this new character gets introduced into the show at the very end of season 4, and he's this very attractive male priest, and just the hair, it was perfect. The hair, like his hair, he did the whole, like no one had hair like that back then. That is a today haircut. No one had, it was his hair gel was in, like they didn't have, get out of here. Didn't make any sense, but it was interesting because he would hook up. The first scene shows him at a funeral reading the eulogy, or I think it's called the eulogy. I'm not smart enough to remember what it's called, but he's reading the eulogy, and there's a widow grieving there, and the widow's hot with the veil all over her eyes. I'm like, thank you. I don't know how I'm gonna recover. And he's like, oh, with time you'll recover. And then the scene cuts, and then it's them having sex in a bed, and he's helping her recover. Hot scene. I'm not gonna lie, hot scene. My friend Ray doesn't like when TV shows show sex scenes, and I think it's because he doesn't have any sex other than with himself. So I think he gets a little jealous. He's like, oh, these people are pretending to have sex. That's what I do. And then he gets upset. So he doesn't have that issue with porn though, which is interesting. But that's besides the point. So this priest sins, and he has sex with these women, and then he repents, but it's a continuous thing he does. So then there's like all of these thorn bushes, and he just walks through them, and he's getting cut up, he's bleeding, and he's out in the middle of the wilderness looking up at the sky, asking God to forgive him, repenting. And I know this episode is probably going to be about religion, and which is funny that my girlfriend Corey has that cross. And I'm not saying anything bad. I'm just kidding. I'm going to say a whole bunch of stuff bad, or not bad, but just questioning. Okay, okay, all right. Thank you. So the cross gets closer and closer to me as I talk about it. I don't notice it until later. But he's out there in the wilderness repenting, and I'm just thinking, if God, um, say God's not, hypothetically, let's say God's not real, the amount of time, life that's been wasted is unimaginable, I'm thinking. But then you can say, well, if you don't worship God and he is real, then you wasted eternity in heaven with him. So there's that argument. But I'm just thinking, like, you have all of those urges. Say that character has all of these urges that are in him that he can't help. But maybe that's like the whole, he can't help. So then he indulges in his what he naturally wants. Um, so God made him that way, or God created a system, and then that system made him that way, and then he's punished for it, which sounds like torture to me in a weird way. But I'm trying to wrap my head around religion, God, him being this all-knowing being, and we can't think like him, and he's not human. He doesn't have human emotions, but yet he gets jealous and upset when human beings worship a false idol. And the the whole Abraham story, where he has Abraham prove his devotion to God by having to sacrifice his firstborn, and Abraham's going to do it. He raises the knife, and then God says, "No, psych, just kidding." But wouldn't, if God is all powerful, wouldn't he know Abraham's true feelings initially? And then Job and the devil are playing some weird game of, hey, let's mess with Job. Let's torture him, basically. And God and the devil are betting, basically, that Job is going to either still worship the Lord, is still going to follow on that path, or he's going to curse the Lord for all of his I guess bad luck. And that, but but in that instance, God knows Job's true feelings. He's like, oh, no, I know this guy. But Abraham, you didn't know about. Abraham, you made him think. Yeah, you made him think, like, you made him think that he had to kill his only child for you. If anyone says that, I was like, one, you're that a little messed in the head. But I think that those, I don't know. I honestly don't know, because how do you? Because my whole thing is, I think religion was created by the people in charge, the high religious leaders who could read, and they wanted to. They had to get the big group of people, the civilization, to not act like animals all the time. So I think they had to create this big character, big invisible guy in the sky that would punish you if you did anything wrong. And those smart people knew that others feared them. That not feared them, but the mass majority of people fear. They saw all of their what is it? They saw all of their superstitions. So it's like, hey, let's use that to get these people in line. So the mass majority of them don't, kill, rape, murder, and steal. Let's do that. Okay, let's create this one big God that we all worship, and then hey, let's have them go to this building where to pray, and also to give money. That's good too, because if you don't give the church money, then they're not going to make money. So the more money they give, the more money they make, the more money they give. That's smart. But I don't know. It seems like a scam to me. It seems like a big scam. But I don't know. I'm not going to say God does exist. I had a conversation with my friend Ray. He called me last night, and we got into a religious discussion. Him saying that there is proof that Jesus Christ existed, and I was saying I don't think there is. I'm pretty sure I've heard scholars or scholars back then write about a person that they heard about, but there was no like written witness testimony of these people other than the books that um, like Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, all of his disciples. But is that something that you could? It's not like those. But did Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were they scholars that wrote other books that were proven correct, or are these just writings from a crazy religious cult? You know, so we should base our whole life structure off of these people we don't know. And I mean, a lot of them are mostly good ideas, but we should just wholeheartedly believe that. Because why? Because all of the other religious texts, like Christians don't believe other religious texts. They don't believe in the Quran. They don't believe in any of that stuff. All of the Egyptian gods that used to be worshipped are gone. So you reject all of those, but this one instance, you hold on to that, and it's like, and that just so happens to be the religion that your parents are randomly. So isn't that kind of a coincidence? That's what I'm thinking. I don't know. I'm not sure, but that's what I'm thinking. It's a moment that just went off and like just basically clicked in my head. I'm just when I was younger, I was like, wait a minute, this all could be a bunch of BS. And the people in the religion, they could they, they could wholeheartedly believe these things. It's the same thing as a cult. I wouldn't say that the cult is um maybe like the leader up top knows it's BS, but a lot of the people behind the scenes, I would say they don't know. That's better. I would say they don't know, right? You would think. You would think anyway. But are they just manipulating people because they like to? Are they um, are they doing it for financial purposes? Are they doing it for just attention, having power and clout over a certain person? There was that one cult. What was it with the scarves? That there's an actress from Smallville. She was hot back in the day. Actress from Smallville who she's in jail now, but she was involved in some sex cult. But it started out like as a religious thing. Is that what it always turns out to be? It just seems like the dude always wants to have sex with everybody else's wives. And the type of personality that gets tricked into that is a very beta, taking suggestions from other people personality type. So I'm just wondering how that happens, why it happens. And it happens in every culture. It's not, which is interesting. Doesn't matter what race, doesn't matter what gender. And then they had some weird hierarchy with scarves and the color of them. If you had this blue scarf, it meant something else, but that's no different than robes in the Catholic Church or those headdresses. Like what? You're important because you're wearing a hat or the color of your, but I mean, they take it from the military, like your rank means something. But what does that mean in a religious sense? I could understand in the military, because you have a job to get done, and you have to listen to people who are higher ranked, are usually smarter, have more experience. I would say damn near all. So that would make sense of to distinguish leadership from the people who follow. So just thinking out loud, but what would the point of having a hierarchical structure in a religious? Shouldn't everyone be equal or treated the same? They should have one guy that they listen to, or he has an overall view of the church where they should go. It's interesting. Or have a board, they all vote, something along those lines. But it was just this weird thing. It's like Scientology. You these different stages, the different money you pay, and then you're going to reach enlightenment when you have this many hours of prayer and you've donated this amount of money to the church. It was like, anything that has you have to pay more money, any religion that says you have to pay a certain amount of money, you could, come on. And then how do people fall for this? You wonder how, now a sex cult, everybody likes sex. I can understand getting involved in that. Now, to where you're forcing people to do it, that's wrong, illegal, extreme. Don't do that. But hey, if you want to have a sex cult where everyone's willing participants, sex cult sounds kind of hot. It does. It looks like I have boobies. Sex cult sounds kind of hot. If they released a TV show on HBO called Sex Cult, I'm gonna be like, what is that? Click. This can't possibly. Ooh. This is what I'm talking about. This is the content I want to see. But I don't know. And then the evidence. I wanted to talk about the evidence. I looked up. I did research. By research, I mean a Google Bing search. This is proof of Jesus Christ, ? 7 pieces of evidence debated. And they show a picture of, let's see here. I want to see if I can actually do this. Seem to. Display capture. So have that. Okay. I think I'm recording. I think this is going to work. I think it is going to work. But let's see. Jesus Christ, the man. Jesus Christ may be the most famous person who ever lived. Pretty sure he is a famous person. Most theologians, historians, Christians, non-Christians alike believe that Jesus, an odd assortment of relics. So this is the first thing. This blanket, the shroud of Jesus Christ, which he was supposedly wrapped in. Perhaps the most famous religious relic in the world, the Shroud of Turin, is believed by many to be the burial cloth of Jesus, a 14 by 4 foot linen blanket which bears the ghostly image of a man's body, has been worshipped by millions of pilgrims in the Cathedral of Turin, Italy. But scientifically speaking, the Shroud of Turin is a fake. Radiocarbon dating of the shroud has revealed that it does not date of the time of Christ, but instead to the 14th century. Coincidentally, that's when it first appeared in the historical record. In a document written in 1319, Bishop Pierre de Arques of France claimed the image of Jesus on the cloth was a cunningly painted, a fact arrested by the artist who painted it. And then those are in quotations. Today, the Catholic Church does not officially endorse the Shroud of Turin as authentic. Though many of the faithful, including Pope Benedict, have indicated that they personally believe in its holiness. So they're just contradicting themselves. Wood chips. I don't know what this is. Along similar lines to the abundant nails. Among similar lines to the abundant nails, enough wood chips. I can't even read. From the true cross. Can you imagine having that? It's like, oh man, I should have grabbed that log. I didn't know Jesus was going to be a big thing. You know how much money we could have had? Linda, do you know how much I told you it was going to be worth something? You have all the things in the house. I wanted one thing in the house. I wanted the log. I wanted the piece of wood. All the other little knickknacks and decorations. You couldn't give me one thing. I couldn't have one corner of the house. The cross on which Jesus was crucified are scattered across Europe. Wait, hold on a second. The cross on which Jesus was crucified are scattered across Europe to fill a ship. According to famous remark in the 16th century theologian John Calvin. It's always a John. There is no abbey so poor as to not have a specimen. In some places there are large fragments, as the Holy Chapel in Paris. At Poitiers? I don't know. I need to get out more. And at Rome, where a good-sized crucifix is said to have been made of it. Geez, so they made... Now, Jesus... Now, how would Jesus... Okay, hypothetically, Jesus exists. He gets crucified. They take apart the cross that he was murdered on, tortured. And then these assholes take that wood and make another... The contraption that murdered him in the first place again. Which is kind of weird. That Christians, the symbol of Christianity is the object of which your Messiah was killed upon. I don't. It's kind of weird. But it's supposed to signify the suffering that Jesus went through for us. Like Jesus did this. So if anything bad happens to you, you basically can't complain because you're not being crucified on a cross. Unless you are. Unless you live in, another country and you're legitimately being crucified. And at Rome, where a good-sized crucifix is said to have been made. In brief, if all the pieces that could be found were collected together, they would make a big shipload. Yet the gospel testifies that a single man was able to carry it. That's a good point. If all the pieces of the cross, now I don't know. If all the pieces of the wood could fill a ship, then a shipload, how big's the ship? You know what I mean? So just because it's a shipload doesn't mean ships are a whole bunch of different sizes, man. Don't be mad at me because you don't know how big ships can get. So that one's a little iffy on both sides. That's neither here nor there. The cloth, if they have carbon dating on the cloth and it's in the 14th century, then BS. You can't really. But there are things that carbon dating can't go back to. If it's so old, I did read that. If it's a certain age, they can tell within the first few thousand years. But anything older than that, it's just a guess, they say. Who knows? Science could all be a big lie too. You don't know. It's not. Nothing is real. In a okay, this is Holy Hardware, and it shows a picture of again being crucified. This is a lot, and there's blood dripping down his. Yeah, that's how Jesus wants to be remembered, right there. Yeah, he's like, look at my abs, bro. In a document called Nails of the Cross, which aired in 2011 on the History Channel. Filmmaker, not going to say his name, Simcha, tells a story of two nails allegedly discovered in a 2,000-year-old tomb in Jerusalem. He presents circumstantial evidence that seems to suggest the rusty relics once nailed Jesus to the cross. The tomb in which the nails were found in is believed to some to be that the Jewish high priest Caiaphas, who presided over the trial of Jesus in the New Testament. In their coverage of the film, Reuters reported that that most experts and the scholars they contacted dismissed the filmmaker's case as far-fetched and called it a publicity stunt. It turns out publicity stunts abound when it comes to Holy Hardware. In 1911, English literal scholar Herbert Thurston, that's a cool last name, counted all of the nails that were at the time believed to have been used to crucify Jesus. Though only 3 or 4 nails, the exact number is up for debate, were supposed to have pinned Christ circa AD 30. In 1911, 30 holy nails were being ventured in treasures across venerated. Venerated? What does venerated mean? Like shown? Let's see here. we're going to learn together. Search the web for venerated. Venerated, to regard with deep respect, reverence. Yeah, okay. With venerated, shown respect. Okay. Venerated and respected and treasures across Europe. In an entry in the Catholic Encyclopedia, Thurston, a Jesuit himself, offered this explanation for the surplus in hardware. Probably the majority began by professing to be false, falsimiles, facsimiles, which had touched or contained fillings from some other nail whose claim was more ancient. Without conscious fraud on the part of anyone, it is very easy for imitations in this way to come in a very brief space of time to be rebuted originals. I guess, guy. It's kind of weird. So, but just because there's a bunch of false nails doesn't mean that the nails that he found were fake. That's not a very good debunking of the issue. I don't know how could you prove that? How can you prove that these are the nails that were used on Jesus? Why are all these alarms going off on my phone? I turned them off. At least I thought I did. It's very strange. Why would they? How could they do that? Like you can't. Which is the whole point of religion, is to have faith. Which I think people get caught up in trying to prove. Oh, there was proof that Jesus Christ existed. Like just to have them feel better. It's like, no, that's not the point. The point is you're supposed to believe this even though with no evidence. That's what makes it meaningful. If there was evidence that Jesus existed or that God was real, everyone would know. A book that someone wrote thousands of years ago, multiple people wrote, isn't evidence. And then there were books that they left out of the Bible that were written. So there was a committee on what books should be included in the Bible. Huh? I don't. Lost Books of the Bible is a very interesting Google search to look at. Lead Lies. I don't know what this is. 70 metal books allegedly discovered in a cave in Jordan were hailed as the earliest Christian documents, dating them to mere decades after Jesus' death. Scholars called the lead docilles, written code and cast in lead, the most important discovery in archaeological history. Christians took the books to be proof of the real existence of Jesus because one page displayed an image of him. Nearby, a fragment of text reading, I shall walk uprightly, as interpreted by many to be a reference of Jesus' resurrection, strong evidence that it actually happened, coming soon after the fact. But the lead codexes are fakes, a jumble of archaeologists' dialects and borrowed images, probably forged within the past 50 years. The image they are saying is Christ is the sun god Helios, from a coin that came from the island of Rhodes. Oxford archaeologist Peter Thoneman told the press there are also some nonsense inscriptions in Hebrew and Greek. The main scholar who had been backing their authenticity was later revealed to be a fringe thinker with no real credentials. So because these books were found, but did you do carbon dating on the books? Were they old? They were probably forged within the last 50 years? But I guess you can't. So if you take old metal and make new markings on them, that's interesting. I would like to see the sun god. Like they don't have pictures of the books and then the sun god Helios. They don't have that. They just have they have small images of symbols in the book, and that's all they have. They don't have anything else. And that's interesting. But just because he's a French thinker doesn't mean he couldn't have come upon this sacred document. But how did they know? A jumbled archaeologist dialects, borrowed images, probably forged within the past 50 years. I don't know. I don't know how you do that. Is the language correct? What we think, is the language correct as far as other documents we found? back in the day. But the picture of history is always being kind of edited because we find new things that fill in gaps of theories that we had prior. So I don't know. That's kind of a iffy one as well. Sacred scrolls. One of the most important archaeological. I think they're picking these finds that are fake and just putting all of them on here. That could also be one. One of the most important and archaeological finds that actually dates to the time of Jesus may or may not provide evidence of his existence depending on who you ask. The Dead Sea Scrolls, a vast trove of parchment and papyrus documents, papyrus documents found in a cave in Israel in the 1940s were written sometime between 150 BC and AD 70 AD. In one place, the scrolls refer to a teacher of righteousness. Some say that the teacher is Jesus. Others argue that he could be anyone. So they're not saying that the Dead Sea Scrolls are fake. They just don't mention Jesus. They mention a teacher of righteousness. I don't know. I'd have to read the Dead I want to go skiing. The Dead Sea Scrolls myself. I need to translate them myself. There was Christ's crown of thorns. Well, of course, they're not going to have the actual crown of thorns thousands of years old. Do you think the thorns are going to hold up over time? I'm 35. My knees are breaking down. You don't think these thorns? Before Jesus was crucified, the Gospels say Roman soldiers placed a crown of thorns on his head in a painful mockery of his sobriety. Many Christians believe the thorny instrument of torture still exists today, albeit pieces scattered across Europe. One near complete crown is housed in Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. The one that burned down? The documented history of Notre Dame's crown of thorns goes back 16 centuries, Jesus. An impressive providence, but it doesn't quite trace back to AD 30. Furthermore, as Nickel points out, who's Nickel? Nickel points out Notre Dame's crown is a circlet of brush and is completely devoid of thorns. That's true. They're not thorns. They're just look like sticks. I don't know if those are thorns or not. That's the actual picture of it. It's interesting. But can't you carbon date the wood? Not too sure. That's another bad argument. The Bible, the whole Bible is the thing. It's okay. The best argument in favor of Jesus as a once-lived person is, of course, the Holy Bible itself. The synoptic Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are thought by scholars to have been written by 4 of Christ's disciples in the decades after his crucifixion. There are still other Gospels never canonized, but written by near contemporaries of Jesus, all the same. Many details differ between the various accounts of his life and death, but there's such a great deal of overlap, and through the centuries of careful analysis, biblical scholars have arrived at a general profile of Jesus the man. We do know some things about historical Jesus, less than some Christians think, but more than some skeptics think. So it could, it's somewhere in the middle, I think, I believe. Prominent Bible scholar, author, and retired professor of religion and culture at Oregon State University. Though a few books have recently argued that Jesus never existed, the evidence that he did is persuasive to the vast majority of scholars, whether Christian or non-Christian. So I think that scholars, I think religious people go in with a clouded view, and I think scholars go in with the clouded view too. One goes in to look at evidence with the idea that Jesus existed, and the other goes in with the idea that he didn't. And so any evidence, they're going to look at the evidence through those tinted colored glasses, I believe. So you really don't get the full, if you're just kind of in the middle and then you look at this evidence, not impartially. You're supposed to be impartial. You're impartially looking at the evidence and then letting the evidence make you come to a conclusion. But a lot of these, the only thing that they scientifically proved that wasn't real was the shroud, in my opinion. If they actually did the carbon dating and it's in the 14th century, then there's no way that's the shroud of Jesus. But the wood chips, just because like if all the wood chips can fill a ship, and then how could that huge item could be carried by one man? Well, you don't know how big ships are. That's not a good argument. The nails of the cross, just because there are a whole bunch of nails and there's not four, obviously there could be fakes. We're human beings. We're going to fake things. That's just because there are fakes doesn't delegitimate. That's because, like, say if you found like 100 fake $1 or $100 bills, that doesn't make all the other $100 bills not real. You look at it skeptically. Be a skeptic. Be like, hey, this might not be real, but there's ways to obviously tell if a bill is real. The lead lies, the lead book that was found, that could have been, it says probably forged within the last 50 years. Well, let's find out for sure if it was, not probably, let's find out if it was for sure made in the last 50 years. And if you can't figure it out, if you can't prove it's not real, then you have to treat it as it's real. But there's no other evidence other than they didn't like the guy, the fringe thinker. He's a fringe thinker, and it was probably forged in the last 50 years. Well, why do you think it was forged in the last 50 years? Because the symbol for God was the same as Helios? I don't understand. I'd have to know the history behind Helios, how old that is. Yeah, sun god Helios. And then does the sun god Helios predate Christ? Were those stories told before, or is Helios a new character that is after God exists? That evidence of Helios show up after Christ was written about. And in that case, you could say it was fake. But then someone could have just, I don't know. The person who created Helios could have used, like, that symbol could have been used for Christ, and then this other person created Helios and liked that symbol and used it. Isn't that possible? Or am I being stupid? You're being stupid, Chase. And then the Dead Sea Scrolls, the righteous teacher, it's not saying that the Dead Sea Scrolls are fake, but it's saying that they don't mention Christ by name, just teacher of righteousness. But that doesn't prove or disprove that. So there is no evidence, I guess. This evidence it's circumstantial at best. The Christ crown thing, okay, that's probably not real. But I think more of that stuff is the idea of it. The Bible itself, which is kind of, but they don't like the Bible itself. They're making an argument that Jesus didn't exist. The article is all these things could be false, what have you. But then they bring up the Bible, and it basically makes the argument for being in the middle, like not sure. Okay. Then I looked up. This is actually the History Channel's viewpoint of all of this. So many ads, dude. Like, it makes people not want to go to your website, guy. Get out of here. While billions of people believe that Jesus of Nazareth, let's see how long we've been going. 41 minutes. Okay. All on religion. That's fine. Don't care. And hey, if you don't like religion, go. A 2015 survey conducted by the Church of England, for instance, found that 22% of adults in England did not believe Jesus was a real person. Among scholars of the New Testament of the Christian Bible, though, there were little disagreement that he actually lived. A man named Lawrence Miketuick, I don't know, an associate professor of library science at Purdue University and author of a 2015 Biblical Archaeological Review article on the extra biblical evidence of Jesus, notes that there was no debate about the issue in ancient times whether Jewish rabbis, I'm an idiot, Jewish rabbits existed. These rabbits, Jewish rabbis who did not like Jesus or his followers accused him of being a magician and leading people astray. And he says, but they never said he didn't exist. Okay. So Jewish rabbis from back then wrote about Jesus being a magician and leading people astray. So he could have been David Blaine or Chris Angel. He could have been one of these guys, you know? Archaeological evidence of Jesus does not exist. There's no definitive physical or archaeological evidence of the existence of Jesus. There's nothing conclusive, nor would I suspect there to be. Um, Peasants don't normally leave an archaeological trail. The reality is that we don't have archaeological records for virtually anyone who lived in Jesus's time and place, says University of North Carolina religious studies professor Bart D. Ehrman, author of Did Jesus Exist? The Historical Argument of Jesus of Nazareth. The lack of evidence does not mean a person at the time didn't exist. It means that she or he, like 99.99% of the rest of the world at the time, made no impact on the archaeological record. Good argument. Just because there is no evidence of Jesus Christ doesn't mean that the lack of evidence doesn't mean that he didn't exist. But it's a huge issue because Jesus is incredibly important in today's society or throughout history. Questions of authenticity continue to surround direct relics associated with Jesus, such as a crown of thorns he reputedly wore during his crucifixion. One possible example is housed inside the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, the Shroud of Turin, like I said before, a linen burial cloth purportedly emblazoned with the image on his face. They show this crown, and it looks like the crown has like gold around. Catholics, they always got to put stuff in gold. Hey, people who aren't concerned about worldly things, you do put a lot of gold on shit. And the Vikings back then stole everything. Now back into that's a throwback. Yay! That's a callback. Archaeologists. I can't say that word. Archaeologists. Jesus Christ, Jace. Jesus. Though I've been able to corroborate elements of the New Testament story of Jesus, while some disputed the existence of ancient Nazareth, his biblical childhood hometown, archaeologists have unearthed a new rock-hewn courtyard house along with tombs and a cistern. They have also found physical evidence of a Roman crucifixion such as that of Jesus described in the New Testament. Okay. Documentary evidence outside of the New Testament is limited. The most detailed record of the life of Jesus comes from the four Gospels, New Testament writings. These are all Christian and are obviously and understandably biased in what they report and would have evaluated very critically indeed to establish a historical, reliable information. But their central claims about Jesus as a historical figure, a Jew with followers executed on orders by the Roman governor Judea Pontius Pilate during the reign of Emperor Tiberius, are born out of later sources with a completely set of biases. During the reign of Emperor Tiberius, are born out by later sources with a completely different set of biases. Not really understand what that means. Within a few decades of his lifetime, Jesus was mentioned by Jewish and Roman historians in passages that corroborate portions of the New Testament that describe the life of Jesus and death of Jesus. What did Jesus look like? Historian Flavius Josephus wrote one of the earliest non-biblical accounts of Jesus. The first century Jewish historian Flavius, who according to Aaron is far and away our best source of information about the first century Palestine, twice mentions Jesus in Jewish Antiquities, his massive 20-volume history of the Jewish people that was written around 93 AD, thought to have been born a few years after the crucifixion of Jesus around 37 AD. Josephus was a well-connected aristocrat and military leader in Palestine who served as a commander in Galilee during the first Jewish revolt against Rome between 66 and 70 AD. Although Josephus, that's how you say that word, I think. Josephus was not a follower of Jesus. He was around when the early church was getting started, so he knew people who had seen and heard Jesus. One passage of Jewish antiquities that recounts an unlawful execution. Josephus identifies the victim James as the brother of Jesus, who is called Messiah. What? Jesus had brothers and sisters. People related to Jesus out there? That's why David Blaine and Chris Angel are so cool. While few scholars doubt the short account's authenticity, says Mutiak, or whatever his name is, Mikituik. More debate surrounds Josephus' lengthier passage about Jesus, known as the Testimony Flavarium, which describes a man who did surprising deeds, was condemned to be crucified by Pilate. Agrees with most scholars that Christian scribes modified portions of the passage but did not insert it wholesale into the text. So this guy was talking about Jesus. He didn't see Jesus, maybe, but he was talking about him. He's like, hey, people I know are talking about this guy named Jesus. Tacitus connects Jesus to his execution by Pontius Pilate. Another account of Jesus appears in the Annals of Imperial Rome, a first century history of the Roman Empire. See, all this stuff the other article didn't have, which is very interesting. Like a scholar that wrote fucking 20 volumes of the history of the Jewish people mentioned Jesus. I would say that's pretty good eyewitness testimony that he was there. Written around 116 AD by the Roman senator and historian Tacitus, in chronicling the burning of Rome in 64 AD. Why did they always burn stuff? I never understood that. You have a system you're going up against, you rebel against it, and then you destroy. It's like, hey, you could learn from that system. Keep those writings. There could be information in there that could better your new society that you want. But it's annoying. Tacitus mentions that Emperor Neo falsely blamed the persons commonly called Christians who were hated for their enormities. I don't know what that. Enormities? The quality of passing around moral bounds, excessive wickedness, or outrageousness. Enormities? Okay, never. I thought enormities meant like all of the things that are really big. Christius, the founder of the name, was put to death by Pontius Pilate. This is all in quotes. Procurator of Judea in the reign of Tiberius. I wish I knew all these different words. As a Roman historian, Tacitus did not have any Christian biases in his discussion in the persecution of Christians by Neo, says Ehrman. Just about everything he says coincides from the completely different point of view by the Roman author, disdainful of Christians and their superstition. With what the New Testament itself says, Jesus was executed by the governor of Judea, Pontius Pilate, for crimes against the state, and a religious movement of his followers sprang up in his wake. When Tacitus wrote this history, he is considered that if he considered the information not entirely reliable, he normally wrote some indication for that for his readers. Mikituik says that in vouching for the historical value of the passage, there is no such indication of potential error in the passage that mentions Christus. Additional Roman texts reference Jesus. I think this is about it. Shortly before Tacitus penned his account of Jesus, Roman governor Pliny. That's funny. Pliny. First of all, if you're a person named Pliny, no one's going to follow you. Roman governor, he had to have been one heartless son of a bitch. Pliny the Younger wrote to Emperor Trajan that earlier Christians would sing hymns of Christ as a god. Some scholars also believe Roman historians references Jesus in noting that Emperor Claudius had expelled Jews from Rome who were making constant disturbances at the investigation of Christus. So mentions of Christus. Okay. It's so cool. It's so interesting how the words evolve over time. Ehrman says this collection of snippets from non-Christian sources may not impart much information about the life of Jesus, but it is useful for realizing that Jesus was known by historians who had reason to look into the matter. No one thought he was made up. Okay, so one article that's for Jesus and one article that's against it. I was like, I thought the other thing was leaving stuff out. I was like, I thought there were more documents of people. And I was like, I wanted to know who documented exact, and are they looked at as real scholars for the time being? Like the things that they wrote about back then can be backed up by other documents found. It's very interesting. But I mean, can you imagine trying to piece together history that happened thousands of years ago? There are things about this country, our own country, we get messed up and we don't remember correctly because documents weren't kept. It's insane. It's insane. Okay, enough religious talk. I know I'm tired of it. There was, let's see here. This video game news. Okay, first of all, Paul George, this is going to be a hard turn. Paul George, Nike, and PlayStation came out with this shoe. Hey, Paul George, I don't think anyone wants these shoes. They're PlayStation shoes. People are going to buy them just to resell them. And also stop stealing Penny Hardaway's colorway. All right? Stop it. Oh, that's the color of the shoe. Nope. Look, they look like old Penny Hardaway's. Looks like you're trying to stop it. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. I still don't understand why I can't hit an MLB The Show. It's bothering the hell out of me. I don't understand. Halo 2 is fantastic. Still, I'm playing that with Corey. Jesus, that game is great. Need to play a little bit more of it later. It was funny. We were playing Sea of Thieves again, and we were getting followed by another ship. So we started attacking them, and then that ship goes, whoa, 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 your friendly flag is up. Our friendly flag is up. We're friendly. And I'm all, hey, I'm not falling for any of that. We were just making sure. And then we found out it was another couple that was sailing the seas together. So we teamed up, and it was kind of funny. Like, whoa, 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 we're friendly. Whoa, whoa, whoa. There's so many good, interesting stories. Like the game, Sea of Thieves, the game tells you the story. You have so many different adventures you can get in just by the actions of the people in the game. There was one oh my goodness. There was one big boss I had to beat. And so I beat the boss by myself. It took me a couple, like hour and a half probably, it seemed like. And then so all of the loot, all of the treasure was laying there, and I had to go get my ship because it sank. So I go get the ship, and then the server switch, and there's a little loading screen, and then so I go back to the island where I killed the boss. All the treasure was gone. So when the servers, unless the treasure I guess is around you, if it's at a certain distance, that treasure that's on the ground just gets lost. I'm just like, oh, that sucked. That's no fun. This is a investing story. AMC, the movie chain, is leaning into the meme. AMC is leaning into its new shareholder base, including memes. First of all, no one cares about memes. Nobody. Oh, the young people own our company, so we have to make memes. That's what they like, right? It's like once you think you know what young people like, and you're old. If old people find out what young people like, the young people are going to change whatever that is to make it something else. Because if the old people know, it's not cool anymore. Just that simple fact. The height of stonks mania were two companies that seemingly benefited from the mad rush: individual retail investors, GameStop and AMC Entertainment. So all of these young people now own AMC stock. So they're ignoring normal traditional forms of advertising, and so they're advertising on YouTube and Twitch and all these other things where young people are, and completely ignoring normal cable channels, which makes sense because everything's going towards that. Just go on Twitter, just go on Reddit, just go on YouTube. Read what these people write. They love AMC. So they're just advertise on those networks or those platforms. It'll be better. It'll be better, I think. But it's so interesting to see all of the different stocks, with what stocks people choose to go in on, and then how they rise and fall. Especially with crypto and Doge. Who knows? This Saturday, Elon Musk could do something that sends Dogecoin through the roof. And I put a couple $100 in a long time ago, and that shit's going insane. My girlfriend, shouldn't you sell it? I'm like, no, I don't know. I just put loose change in the damn, whatever was left from my real investments. I equally put in all of the Bitcoins. And I had no idea it was going to shoot up like that. Thousands and thousands of a percent. If I knew that, I would obviously, all of my money would have went in there and I'd be a millionaire right now. Over the last 2 or 3 months. But what was it? I found out if Dogecoin eventually ever goes up to $20 a share, I can retire off of a couple $100. And right now it's at 60 cents. It's just like all the people with Bitcoin a few years ago it was, a quarter, $2 or $3, less than that, a fraction of a penny. And now it's $60,000 a share. It's like, it's insane. It's like, I'm holding on to it. It's money that I never would have missed regardless. And it's not money that I even begin to imagine that's real. It's like that's a retirement plan thing. That's later in life. That's old Chase when I need the money. If I'm old, crippled, broken, single, and I need some extra money, I need some female entertainment. And who knows, hey, look, New York legalized prostitution, which should be completely legal. All the feminists out there, that should be the number one thing that you're concerned about. Legalize prostitution. Because then money is power. If you create a living off of that, you're going to have a whole bunch more money to influence powerful people. And stop acting like all those powerful people aren't paying you anyway. And all these, like, oh, we're so concerned about student debt. Legalize prostitution. All of them will go away. Now it will lower the amount of money I think women will get, but then women are just gonna have to compete with one another. The best prostitutes are gonna have the best amount of money. Look at that. We go from Vikings to religion, all back to prostitution. Which Jesus, he had prostitutes in his thing, didn't he? In his group, Mary Magdalene. Wasn't she a whore? I don't know if that's actually true or not. I'm not going to look it up. I'm not too sure. But anyways, that's been the religious episode. It's been a year. My 52, episode number 52. Anyone who's watched or listened to one of these things, appreciate it. Thank you. It's pretty much my mom listening to this, and that's about it. But it's okay. I'm learning how to talk for an hour. I'm learning how to read. Because I don't know Pontius Pilate. I don't know all of these old biblical terms. But anyways, hope you guys have a good weekend, and I'll talk to you next Friday. You got this shit knocking low.